Oh yeah, it's time for package from China, so let's go. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video, we are going to take a close look at a game box, but you can also use this thing like a game machine. Yeah, this is the One More Arcade Special Pandora's box, also known as the Classic Arcade Alpha 3D Max. Do I say correctly? No, it's just the Alpha 3D Max. But this is just a Pandora's box, and this is just another level, and maybe one of the better competitions against the Pandora's box original lineup from 3E Games. But the first thing they're doing great is giving you a very nice manual that explains everything, how it looks and how it feels. I want to say how it feels, and how it actually works out when it comes to the software. There are some downside and positive sides. I have seen this main board already with, let's say, some arcade machine I've reviewed here on the channel where I visited a company. So this thing is not the latest. This is made in August 2023, and later on we're going to be seeing what kind of models we're having more, because they made different models including light gun support. So it's going to be interesting. The first thing I've noticed that this is a very nice way to it. So it comes with a built-in fan. At the back we're finding the input for the power supply, HDMI, the old school VGA, but take consideration that this thing doesn't support, I think, the special, let's say, arcade monitors. Audio output, volume control, and this tiny buttons for getting into the settings. That is the first thing that we're needing to do, because we need to enable the USB compatibility. We can plug it in. It will automatically notice that we're having a controller set up. I'm using the Xbox 360 or the X input, but the only thing I've noticed already is some of them need to be, let's say, enabled, because we're also having over here the old school port, and with a special cable harness you can be just plugging this in and you can just build this thing in an arcade machine. A two-player arcade machine, or let's say in Pandora's box, it's all possible, but let's power it on and let's see what we're having when it comes to the software itself. Okay, so there are actually two different ways how you can power this thing on. So the first thing is using a jumper, which you can see over here with the old school hard drives. Yeah, if you're going to be enable this, it's just going to be connecting two pins and will automatically boot up when you're going to be powering this thing on. So I'm plugging it in. You can just hear the fan itself. It's not super loud, so there's nothing wrong with that. Another thing you can do is remove the jumper and put in an on and off switch. That's another way you can basically search. If you're going to be searching for, let's say, Pandora's box switch, mostly you can just find this cable. Nothing very special about that. And the next thing we need to do is plugging in the HDMI. Where is the HDMI cable? It's over here. And then we're going to be getting the signal out. It's going to be audio and video. And the next thing is the controller. Let's put this in the video so you can see when it's basically powering on. So what's the question, do we need the bottom? Yep, we can use the bottom USB port. It automatically shows player 1, and if you're going to be using a hub, you can plug in multiple controllers, even all the way to 4-player, what I understand of. But again, 2-player controllers work perfectly. But let's get into the menu. Let's press this switch over here, because just the first thing we need to do is setting up that's going to be controller enabled. If you're not going to be doing this, you can just boot up the games. You can even navigate through the menu, but when you're getting into the game, you cannot use a controller. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. The machine has been booted up, and let's check out what kind of option we're having. The key setting is one of the first one, and when it comes to key settings, we can just the key setting testing and definition. But the unfortunate part is that it doesn't work with the controllers. That's purely for the arcade part. Coin setting, and this is very easy to set up if you want to have free play or other setting if you get this thing in, let's say, an arcade machine. Auto exit is actually like when you're just doing anything, it just automatically goes back to the main menu. Graphical mode is one of the things, it's kind of weird, they should name it differently. It says close and open, it doesn't make any sense. And then of course the game settings. But with the game settings, I have noticed something that, so the game difficulty settings over here can be set at just the game list. In here we can basically hide games, or let's remove them all. You know, we can do all kinds of cool things. So if you just have a game that doesn't work, or you don't like it at all, you can just remove it. But the unfortunate thing is, what I've noticed, with the game settings, it's quite limited. And I mean, when you're looking at the new model I do own, we have something that can be an issue. So when getting into a game, for example, if you're going to be into the list itself, we can actually boot up a PlayStation Portable game, but nothing else works. And that has to do with the compatibility. So that was the first issue I've noticed. So let's switch to the newer model. So chit-chatting with them, I realized that the newer model has controller support and the older one doesn't. So you need to have the one with at least like March 2024 or something like that. And it's kind of funny, it's like when I basically like plug this thing in, I already noticed they also improved the fan itself because it's super silent. So this thing has been improved in many different ways. I think it was also the SD card has a different brand or a different size at least. Different fan, and of course we have some software updates. So let's get it back into the menu. Let's plug in the controller and I will show you what I mean, because I couldn't use the controller with every single system. So back at the Pandora Gun Max, let's say, machine, here we will find with the game settings, so we're having now different options. In here we're finding game cursor, open and hide. We're just going to be hiding it for now. And we have the game controller, and this is the setting where we're talking about. So with the older version we couldn't set it to handle, and that means that we cannot use the controller with every single system. Quite unfortunate, but it's something that we needed to do. Alright, so let's take a close look at, let's say, the device itself. But okay, so let's take a close look how the menu works. It's kind of weird. They made the decision for a 3D and 2-dimensional list. I freaking hate it. Pressing start will give you all the options for the categories. You can see racing, sport, action, 4-player. So that's kind of cool. And yep, we do have a light gun update coming up. Trackball. And then we're having over here the Dreamcast and all the other systems. So pressing on the Dreamcast will showcase all of the Dreamcast games. I'm curious how this will run PlayStation, Famicom and all the other systems we've seen many times before. And under here we can just search. So let's say we want to have a Sonic game. From this point you can just search Sonic. And with showcases, oh crap, messed it up. And having all of the Sonic games. So that's it. And pressing start will bring you into the left menu over here. And here we see all of the different, let's say, systems. But the unfortunate so far, I can see you cannot really tell which platform is what. Yeah, you can look at the screenshot, but there is nothing clear saying like, hey, this is from the Mega Drive or other ones. Doesn't matter, so let's do some testing. And let's start off with, let's say, some Dreamcast. I'm curious how this will run. And let's do some test benching over here. Having a very nice screenshot with every game that we want to choose. So yeah. Okay, so loading times. Let's see what we're having with this. Loading up a Dreamcast game. Let's see if the loading times are fast or slow. But so far it takes absolutely forever to load up. Oh man. Alright, so it seems to be they are using the arcade system. That would be also like understanding why it took forever to load up. We cannot show any, let's say, other options. Think about when it comes to the aspect ratio. Pressing the home button on my Xbox controller makes the option to make a quick load, quick save, but that's it. Overall performance seems to be working just fine. It runs on native resolution. That's mostly with these Pandora's boxes. What I do know, some of the, let's say, bar tops where they're using this in has like a 4:3 aspect ratio, like a screen in the inside, so that then this game will look so much better. For the overall performance, I'm quite surprised. I did hear some minor struggles in the beginning, but the overall performance seemed to be quite nice. Oh man, I love myself some shmups. It's so satisfying. Okay, that's kind of cool. So I'm pressing the buttons at a single time. We're having different, like say, power. While holding it, we're getting rapid fire. You know, you find the most awesome games now, man. Can I grab that? Oh yeah, I can grab that. Oh yeah, power up. Woohoo! Man, this game is cool. Another system that always have problems with these like Pandora's boxes is N64. So let's check out how this will work out. D-pad doesn't do anything, and the same goes for the analog stick. So when it comes to playing this with a joystick configuration, that is not possible at all. So they completely messed it up when it comes to that. But so far I can see the emulation performance is not bad at all. So yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm guessing this is one of those things they need to reconfigure. Hoping with an update they can fix that. So one other thing I also noticed, and that has to do with different emulators that where these games were playing on, is that it is quite annoying that we do have the problem when it comes to some, let's say, game sound. The sound is so low, you know, it's absolutely freaking annoying. The gameplay is quite nice. I don't hear any weird things going on, so they're using the right MAME emulator on that. Okay, so moving on with some PlayStation Portable, where I can just only use the D-pad for playing, but the overall emulation is quite good. I don't see any weird things going on. I did hear some minor hiccups in the audio, but nothing really, let's say, notable in the game itself. Fire It Up is absolutely a great game. This is actually my first game I've ever played on the PlayStation Portable. Oh man, it was absolutely blast to the past. For me, it's like a Twisted Metal ripoff, but it is so much fun. It's so cool. Okay, so moving on to the Super NES, and this is a system that is normally working without any problem whatsoever. So let's get into the gameplay. The controller support seems to be working just fine, only the D-pad. So that is a little bit of a disappointment, but okay. But when it comes to, let's say, the gameplay and everything else, we do some weird things going on at the right side of the screen. You can see some glitches, but besides that, the overall good emulation. Okay, so let's check out some Tekken. Some weird, let's say, save state situation was going on over here, but the message has been removed. Another thing is that we seem to have an audio. That was one of the tests I wanted to do. Oh man, with the controller, one single button isn't mapped, or they're using the L1 button, so that is kind of weird. That's the thing what happens all the time with these things, that the overall, let's say, emulation performance is great, but mapping the buttons, that is a different challenge. I just wanted to see what happens. We're going to be using a 3-dimensional game. It's going to be native resolution, no problem whatsoever. So PlayStation 1 seems to be working just fine on this. Okay, so let's see how the handhelds will run on this. Okay, no audio delay or any weird things going on. So far so good. All the sound effects are here. Let's move on. I do see some weird glitches at the right part. You can just see it over there. So that's quite unfortunate. So the emulation is not perfect. Where I don't see a lot of screen tearing going on. It's kind of strange. When getting a power up, you can just see that I have this weird like glitch going on. Nope. It only happens with the power-ups. So far I can see what this. So move on to some Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. So what I've noticed with this particular system, that we have also no problem whatsoever. Overall great performance when it comes to the emulation. No weird sound effects or soundtracks that are not like sounding right like the original game system. The system you don't see often is the PC Engine, and this is something, I don't know why, but they not adding this to a lot of Pandora's boxes. Mostly it's going to be the 6-bit and 8-bit like Famicom and the Sega system, so I think it's absolutely great to see it. I think also the Pandora game 3D has the option for PC Engine, and I think it's not even the 10th of Pandora's box, so nevertheless it seems to be working just fine. Alright, so let's do a quick teardown of both of the boxes, the 2023 and 2024 model. So like I mentioned before, that the 2023 doesn't support controllers, or it does support it, but only PlayStation Portable. Such a weird thing, but they absolutely improve it with the new version. So when you're getting one of those, you need to get the latest version, the 2024 edition. But let's rip it apart and let's do some comparisons. Okay, so let's remove the top part over here. and they didn't implement the antenna because some of them had the antenna, let's say, stuck to there. So the overall quality of the board is so much different than we have seen before. I mean, in the way how everything looks and also the component. We have different kind of capacitors over here. One of the cool things is that this thing does have like a lot of capabilities that I've never seen before. Then we have over here an extra, let's say, connector that I think this is actually the first main board of Pandora's box ever. All of those I've reviewed that actually have this, and you can just see the 2 pins for the voltage for the fan. I'm guessing this one is for the speaker if you want to use this thing in an arcade machine or 2-player one. And there's even more pins, so I have no idea where they are for. But maybe when we're getting something different, of an, let's say, a plug and play solution, maybe we can just check it out where some of the pins are used for. Okay, so when it comes to the thermal paste, also here they did a great job of, let's say, adding thermal paste to all kinds of components. The only weird thing is that they used multiple layers of them. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Okay, so the chip itself is the Rockchip 3288T. So that is a chip you don't see very often on Pandora's boxes. Maybe in the later models, but not on the older ones. So the overall construction itself, well, it's not bad at all. Now let's rip the other one, because I want to see what they improved. Okay, so when it comes to the, let's say, the looks of the fan, it seems to be, it's just exactly the same one, even the same brand, only this one stage 12 volt. So there was nothing different on here. And yeah, also the capacitors, everything, connections, only they removed this particular one. That was for a ribbon cable, where I have no idea where it's for. We have on top the connector we didn't talk about, and this, so far I understand, this is where you're going to be plug this thing into, let's say, Pandora's box portable, or like a device I've reviewed here on the channel. So configuration wise, it seems to be the same situation. Let's remove the pin. And that's one of the cool things, you can always upgrade, replace the fan if this thing gets broken. Okay, so let's see if they also implemented the stacking of different, no, they didn't stack it up this time. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, let's be very gentle, but there isn't different quality of thermal paste. Oh man, there's that thermal pad stuff that, oh boy, that I need to be very careful with, otherwise I'm going to be completely destroying this. I can be wrong, but it's kind of weird that they're using like thermal pad with double-sided tape. It looks like they just forgot to remove the double-sided tape or the plastic. But that is, of course, maybe that I'm having this completely wrong. Also here we're having the Rockchip 3288C over there. So this is actually differences between them. So they also changed out the chip with the newer version. That is really interesting. Okay, so let's put everything back together and let's chit chat about the final conclusion. So when it comes to the special board Alpha 3D Max, I'm going to say this Pandora's box is something different when it comes to the overall build quality of the PCB, the options for trackball, and this Alpha 3D version. Yeah, the older model is kind of weird that it can only be supported mostly with, let's say, the normal arcade controller at the side, but this newer version, also known as the Pandora Gun Max, yeah, it's actually the same board, only with a different name and a different revision of the chip. You can even add yourself like light guns, and it would be cool to check that out in the future. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it would be great to see you in the next video.